Mary, how does the man talk?
We believe that all men are created
equal
to the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
In certain extraordinary cases, it is in the public interest to appoint a special prosecutor to independently manage an investigation and prosecution. Based on recent developments, including the former president's announcement that he is a candidate for president in the next election, and the sitting president's stated intention to be a candidate as well, I have concluded that it is in the public interest to appoint a special counsel.
Oh, man.
Such an appointment underscores the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters. It also allows prosecutors and agents to continue their work expeditiously and to make decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law.
All right. Oh, man. I tell you right now, when Hillary Clinton announced for president, I didn't see a special counsel be appointed. Just make a note that I said that. Okay. So there's Merrick Garland today about, hour ago now, saying that he feels like because Donald Trump announced for the presidency that he needs to appoint a special counsel to look into whether or not there was an interference by Donald Trump or any entity or any other person into the transfer, the peaceful transfer of power in this country, and also into the documents case. So he's appointing a special counsel. Now, here's the thing. This is all I know, okay? I know that when you appoint a special counsel, you have to have a team in place, the special counsel himself, and I know it's a man, his name is Jack Smith, just so you know. The special counsel himself has to have a team in place, so that means that Jack Smith has to put a team in place. He also then asks for a budget to pay that team, so that has to happen. A budget has to be submitted. A budget has to be approved. The money has to be transferred. Then you also, as an attorney, as a lawyer, as a team of lawyers, you now have to learn the case. You have to read the depositions of those who have been deposed. You have to figure out, all the moving parts of the case, all the people in the case, all the entities that might be, chargeable in this case. This is not an overnight process. This is not something that can happen overnight. All right. So that said, the people who are for the independent counsel and the appointment of an independent counsel to maintain the integrity of the Department of Justice, to maintain a nonpartisan, stance in an investigation into a presidentially announced candidate, Donald Trump, they're saying, well, look, the case that the Department of Justice has already is very far along. It's ready, it's well developed. Apparently, Merrick Garland was probably ready to indict. And now that Donald Trump has announced that he's running for president, he didn't want to give the appearance that, his boss who's running against Donald Trump was ordering him or commanding him or telling him or instructing him or doing anything at all. And so he wants to appoint an independent counsel so that it doesn't look partisan. I got news for you. The maggots in this country, they don't give a damn where the indictment comes from. They don't care if it comes from an independent counsel. They don't care if it comes from Merrick Garland. They don't care if it comes from DOJ. They don't care if he's arrested by the FBI. They will think, no matter who indicts Donald Trump, that person was partisan in the indictment. So I don't know what this accomplishes in the long haul if you're looking to win hearts and minds of maggots. So, but then others say what I say, and that is that this takes time. This is going to take a long ass time because, first of all, the guy that he's selected, I don't know anything about him except that he works at The Hague. He works on war crimes. He is right now involved in a war crime investigation into war crimes committed in Kosovo. Now, just in case anybody had any questions about how fast the wheels of justice can grind to justice, Kosovo. Yes, I said Kosovo. Go look up when Kosovo and the war crimes in Kosovo happened. And this guy is, a guy who worked in Brooklyn. He was, prosecutor there. He worked in Manhattan. He was a prosecutor there. Then he worked in Middle Tennessee as a prosecutor there. Then he started doing war crimes. Now he's back at The Hague doing war crimes investigations. And now he's been tapped by Merrick Garland to be the special prosecutor who will or will not choose to indict Donald Trump or any person or entity that interfered in the peaceful transfer of power in this country. So, and I will tell you what I know just from reading a quick couple of 3 newspaper articles. Wall Street Journal has one, New York Times has one, and the Washington Post has one about who this guy is. His name is Jack Smith. And they're saying that Jack Smith, obviously, is a prosecutor who works on war crimes at The Hague, and he's investigating war crimes in Kosovo. But that also, and so he is actually based over there. I mean, he lives in Germany, I think. And also, he just had knee surgery that he's recovering from. And so and that's why he wasn't at the press conference that we just saw, because he's recovering from knee surgery. So for anybody that thinks that Donald Trump was going to be indicted yesterday, or hoped, like me, that he would be indicted yesterday, or that it'll happen after, I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, well, the 60-day rule, because there is one last election to be held in Georgia, the runoff between, back crap crazy boy and the legitimate, incumbent, the person who is well qualified to be a senator from the state of Georgia, Raphael Warnock. Because we have this runoff election, waiting to occur, I was willing to say that's the reason why Merrick Garland hadn't moved to indict Donald Trump or anybody else who tried to interfere in the peaceful transfer of power, because they self-imposed this rule from the Office of Legal Counsel that says that you don't indict somebody 60 days, you don't indict a political player 60 days ahead of an election. So I thought, oh, well, maybe the clock started ticking again because, of the... No. They're going to hand it off to a special counsel. And this is not a commentary on the person, because I don't know who this person is any more than, you do, unless you work inside DOJ or The Hague, or unless you worked at the Brooklyn prosecutor's office, or unless you worked at the Middle Tennessee prosecutor's office, or unless you worked at the Office of Legal Counsel. I don't think anybody, in this audience, just to couch it, knows who he is. So this has nothing to do with, a commentary on him or his integrity or his stature or his ability or his lack of ability or any of those things. It has nothing to do with it. People that do know him have said he's so apolitical that nobody even knows what his politics are. He doesn't have an interest in politics. He's strictly a guy who investigates complex crimes. That is who he is. That is what he loves to do. That is what he does. And so there's no politics associated with him that I can, tell you about right now. So this has nothing to do with him. This has to do with time. This has to do with the ability of somebody to staff up an independent counsel team, to get the budget for an independent counsel office and team, for that team to then learn the case, for that team to actually read the depositions that have been taken in the case or any of the evidence that the January 6th committee is offering or offered to the Department of Justice for their review. This cannot possibly happen soon. All because Donald Trump announced that he's running for president, and nobody wants to see him run for president, not even the evangelicals in this country, not even the Republicans that are currently serving in the Senate or the House want to see him run for president. But he did it for this reason. He did it just for this, to kick the can down the road, to play for time, to buy time, to, move it down the road. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's sad, it's sick, it's unbelievable, and it's happening. It's happening. I'm not happy, and it's freaking Friday.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go
for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
The special counsel will conduct parts of the first investigation I just mentioned. The investigation into whether any person or entity unlawfully interfered with the transfer of power following the 2020 presidential election, or with the certification of the Electoral College vote held on or about January 6. The special counsel will also conduct the investigation involving classified documents and other presidential records, as well as the possible obstruction of that investigation. Today, I signed an order appointing Jack Smith to serve as special counsel. The order authorizes him to continue the ongoing investigation into both of the matters that I have just described and to prosecute any federal crimes that may arise from those investigations.
All right. So, listen, it's an easy call to say that whoever a new attorney would be in cases, plural, like these, even if these cases are well developed, even if these cases have gotten to the point where they have evidence and provable, things that they can show a court that clearly show that laws were broken and that the investigation into these laws being broken were obstructed by the subject of the investigation, which, we can all see with our own freaking eyes, right? Even if that's the point at which Jack Smith, the new independent counsel, comes into the fold, even if that's where he picks up his team, because you can't do this alone. This is complex, right? This is an amazing investigation that's been going on with the January 6th committee, and then the DOJ was asking for documents for a long time, and then finally, when the January 6th committee was able to show its case, it said, okay, now we'll start to provide these documents to the Department of Justice, and now Department of Justice is going to hand it over to an independent counsel. That independent counsel has to learn what's in those documents. That independent counsel and that team has to, read them. They have to understand, what they're doing, what's who's who and what's what, and all the moving parts of two separate cases, two separate criminal cases, plus obstruction of both. So I don't know. It's almost 2023, people. It really is. The insurrection, the interference, the violent, insurrectionists. Look, I'll tell you this, Stuart Rhodes, Elmer, come to find out his name is Elmer Stuart Rhodes, the head of the Oath Keepers, okay, the founder of the Oath Keepers, and four of his, compadres in violence, who used violence to try and interfere and overturn the results of the 2020 election. Their trial is just now in closing arguments. Their trial has just now started to wrap up, right? So the prosecution in Elmer's case just finished their summation, their closing arguments, and said things like, this was not just bluster, because, the defense for Stuart Rhodes and the others, for the other Oath Keepers, for the Watkins girl, and what's amazing is Watkins is... she's transgendered. Not that I care, but Jessica Watkins is a transgendered girl. And I don't know why the Republicans are so, willing to abuse and bully transgendered people when one of their most beloved heroes of the movement is Jessica Watkins. Okay, she's from Woodstock, Ohio. She said her actions that day were really stupid, but she wasn't part of a plan. She was just swept along with the mob, which she said it was like Black Friday. It was like being at the store for Black Friday. That's what it felt like to her. She didn't really plan to be there. She didn't really plan to do anything violent. She just dressed that way. I don't know. Thomas Caldwell, he's a Navy vet from Virginia. He said that, the messages that they introduced as evidence that showed he was trying to ferry weapons across the Potomac from Virginia into Washington, he said he was never serious about it. He was never serious about that. That was never real. And then Kelly Meggs and Kenneth Harrelson, both from Florida, they just refused to testify, right? So anyway, the closing arguments by the U.S. attorney have concluded, and now the defense is going to make their closing argument. and then they'll throw it to the jury. And so I'm guessing maybe the end of next week or the week after that, because, it's a short week next week because it's Thanksgiving, and maybe we'll get a verdict in something that happened 2 years ago. And here in the United States, that's pretty swift justice. That's pretty fast. This, on the other hand, this is going on, with Donald Trump. We lived through the Mueller investigation. And by the way, I will just tell you that one of the GOP strategists that Donald Trump pardoned in 2020 for a different campaign finance crime was convicted yesterday of, funneling Russian money into the Trump campaign. He was convicted yesterday. His name's Jesse Barton, 44 years old. He was pardoned by Trump in 2020, along with Roger Stone and a whole host of other lunatic, fringy people like Bannon, etc. On that same day, okay? This is a guy who used to work for Senator Rand Paul, and before him, he married Representative Ron Paul's granddaughter. Ron Paul's granddaughter is Benton's wife, okay? And Rand Paul... he helped win his Senate seat, right? He got pardoned 2 days before Christmas with Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, and Jared Kushner's daddy that same day. Anyway, this guy, Jesse Benton, he was pardoned by Trump, like I said, for a different campaign finance crime. And then he was indicted again on 6 counts related to facilitating an illegal foreign campaign donation. And yesterday, he was found guilty on all 6 counts. The evidence at trial showed that he had bought a $25,000 ticket to the Republican National Committee event on behalf of a Russian naval officer who was running for parliament in Russia at the time. And obviously, he knew that it was prohibited by our law to have foreign money go into the campaign coffers of a man running for the presidency of the United States. But he did it anyway. And finally, yesterday, he was convicted of doing that, after he was pardoned for a different campaign crime. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Trump's ever going to go to jail. I honestly don't know. I will also tell you the other trial that's wrapping up, having to do with Donald Trump's, fraudulent behavior. This on the tax fraud case, the Weisselberg case. Okay, so Weisselberg finally was on the stand for a couple days testifying, right? And he had testified that, yes, he did, take perks. And yes, he did it to avoid paying, to save the Trump organization from having to pay him double what those perks were worth, because if they had increased his salary, they would have to double the increase to account for taxes that would be owed on an increased salary. So he decided that he would, take rent. He decided he would take car lease payments for 2 Mercedes-Benz. He would take checks for tuition for his grandkids instead of, going to Trump and asking Trump for a raise, right, to protect the Trump organization's tax position. But when he was asked, whether or not, Donald Trump authorized it, he said yes. And when he was asked whether or not Donald Trump, was part of the scheme, he said, no, this was my own greed. The Trump family had nothing to do with it. So I don't even know if we'll get a conviction there. These people.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Throughout his career, Jack Smith has built a reputation as an impartial and determined prosecutor who leads teams with energy and focus to follow the facts wherever they lead. As special counsel, he will exercise independent prosecutorial judgment to decide whether charges should be brought. Although the special counsel will not be subject to the day-to-day supervision of any official of the department, he must comply with the regulations, procedures, and policies of the department. I will ensure that the special counsel receives the resources to conduct this work quickly and completely. Given the work to date and Mr. Smith's prosecutorial experience, I am confident that this appointment will not slow the completion of these investigations.
I hope you're right. I want to believe you so much. I want to believe you, Merrick. I want to believe you, Mr. Garland. I want to believe in the Department of Justice and the effort to hold, people that go on, multi-year crime sprees, historic crime sprees, accountable for their historic crime sprees. I would love to believe that America is that place where people actually meet the bar of justice after historic crimes have been committed against our nation in order to empower a person who is just bizarre and creepy and mean and arrogant and egotistical and lazy. Roberta in Minnesota.
Hello.
Hello.
I guess basically what I'm thinking is that I think we should take him at his word. We only get one bite at this apple with Trump. If we screw it up, we're done. If Mueller thinks that it needs to go this direction,
Mueller?
No, is that his name? The
Merrick Garland?
guy who's Garland. Ugh. Yeah. Anyway, if Merrick Garland thinks that this is a way to go, I mean, have we had leaks from the people on his team to say otherwise? I haven't heard any leaks.
Leaks about what?
And so, well, about anything to contradict what Garland said, what Merrick Garland said this afternoon.
What are you talking about?
Well, he's saying that he's doing it and it's not going to slow things down. And he's saying, obviously, if he's doing it, that this is the way to go.
So what does that mean about...
And I'm saying take the man at his word. He assume he knows what he's talking about and counsel a little bit of patience and let it play out.
It's been playing out for 2.5 years already. This has been going...
Well, it's been playing out in
Roberta, if you or I had orchestrated an attack on our Capitol, you and me would both be sitting in the Danbury minimum security prison for women, okay? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, but, I mean, there is a different standard when someone's that high up, and there are
that
things
can't
to go
possibly
through.
be okay with you, is it?
Well, but that is the way it is. And so if they have to thread the needle and dance on the head of a pin to get to the right solution, then I say go for it.
Yeah, and
if they come out of the gate and stumble, we're done. Then justice will never be done.
If they would,
I'm just counseling to let them, take the time to do it right, because they're not going to get a second chance.
And doing it right means handing it off to somebody?
Well, if handing it off to him ends up getting justice and gets either the 14th Amendment or jail time or whatever it is that's going to come up and give the orange-headed wonder his comeuppance, then yes, that's what, then hand it off and do it right. And if this man who's done these kind of things before is dealing with someone who's done even bigger stuff before, thinks that this is the right way to go, I'm saying take them at their word. Trust them with it.
Okay, well,
And
you have more faith than I do.
The more patience on top of the patience we've already had and shown.
Okay, well, you are Midwestern nice. I'll give you that. I don't know. I mean,
you make it sound like such a cut.
Oh, I didn't mean it as an insult. I mean that I'm aggressive, and I am so tired of this person, this man, this entity of defrauding people and cheating and doing criminal things that are so obvious to each and every person who will, look at what he's done. The idea that, Russian money was in that campaign, the idea that, just now, yesterday, some guy finally gets convicted, a guy that Trump pardoned for other crimes having to do with campaign finance. I mean, the fact that Rudy Giuliani is getting away, the fact that, Eastman probably will never be prosecuted, the fact that, Sidney Powell's walking around out there, and that the only thing that we seem to be able to do is sue. That's all we seem to be able to do. Sue for money damages. And like 5-10 years from now, you'll see a jury and, like Alex Jones, 2012, the Sandy Hook. It's 10 years later. You finally have like multiple juries find him guilty in a civil setting where the only possible punishment is money damages, and then he declares bankruptcy and says, well, you might as well try and get blood from a stone. I just
you're making a huge assumption there, though, because like you said, the guy with the Russian money was just convicted.
Yeah,
this thing could be so much bigger than even we realize. That in order to incorporate it and get it one and done, they have to take the time to do it.
So I would just say that there are plenty of prosecutors in this here country who know how to put together a RICO Act violation, and that the Department of Justice, the Attorney General of the United States, should probably be one of them.
Well, except that maybe what they're doing is they maybe have those things, but there may be a prize that's even bigger. That if they take the patience and take the time
but I don't
to
think
put it in a package.
I don't think it needs to be bigger. I just think it needs to be.
I'm not sure, but the thing of it is bigger than just Trump is what I mean.
Well, of course it's bigger than just Trump. There are people.
All right, and they.
There are people sitting on their podcast right now who are still free to broadcast, who knew the day before that all hell was going to break loose, told people to strap in. And they're still broadcasting. They're still raking in the bucks. They're still, shaking down their own viewers. These are people that ripped off their own listeners, their own viewers, to the tune of $1 million, stole from them, and said, we will build the wall, and then pocketed that money. And they're the same people. And sitting there broadcasting, doing it even, today. I just think that there's something so wrong with our system. We know, we heard the evidence. We know that the President of the United States of America, at the very least, watched the entire attack on our Capitol on television that day. Watched it on TV and didn't lift a finger. Why does it have to be big?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, talk me off the ledge, everybody. Talk me off the ledge. Xavier in L.A.
Hey, Randi.
Hi.
Happy Friday.
Thank you. You too.
And it's not Xavier, it's Xavier. Or, we can just keep it really simple.
I asked Brett.
I said Xavier.
It's not Xavier.
Oh, okay, so I didn't hit the hard X as well. So we're both wrong there.
Say it again.
X. The X.
Say your name.
Xavier.
Xavier.
Okay, we got it. Xavier.
All right. Now, with I appreciate you taking my call. Now, with the Trump investigation, this is the biggest criminal investigation in the United States. So it's going to take a little while, but we have to give it a little credit that with the AG DOJ, this is going really fast, and also too. I had to write my notes real quick before I talk to you.
Okay.
Boom, boom, boom.
All right then, Xavier.
The sound effects are
okay,
crucial.
okay. You can just hang up on me right now. It's okay.
You
sure?
Sure?
Said my name right.
Oh, that's it. You're done. You're good. You're spent. You're
No, talk to me.
You're satiated. You're sated. You're good. Okay. All right. Nick in Mississippi.
Hey.
Hey.
I haven't talked to you in a long time.
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Listen, I'm gonna talk you off the ledge, honey.
Mm-hmm. I need it.
This is a brilliant move. It is.
Okay.
Because if Merrick Garland had gone after Trump himself and other folks, the MAGAs would say that it's political. You have a a special counsel. And one thing that piqued my interest in what you said there was he worked at The Hague, which means he's into human violations as well. All right? There will probably be a lot of things that Trump is going to be brought up on charges for. Okay? And here's something else I want you to consider. We all know that more than Trump was involved. We all know that he has some Republicans involved, and you have to go after the people who finance and everything. The special counsel is the perfect way to go. Nobody can say it was political.
They're gonna.
Well, yeah, but it won't. It will be obviously without basis in fact.
They're gonna.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
No, what I'm saying.
It's like
Mueller.
Mueller was, a special counsel. Mueller was nonpartisan. Mueller was, seen as if anything, a dyed-in-the-wool conservative Republican, right? A man of the law, straight up.
Yeah.
And they trashed him. The conservative, the right wing, trashed Mueller, trashed him.
I understand.
Okay. And then when Mueller actually declined to do anything except find Donald Trump guilty of 10 counts of to say that he could find at least 10 different, episodes of obstruction of justice, but didn't, indict him because of the OLC, right? You can't indict a sitting president. Then all of a sudden the Republicans were okay with him, but the whole.
Yeah, but let me interrupt you there. First of all, with Mueller, he was constrained on so many different levels. Okay. He didn't really do a proper investigation as far as I was concerned. He didn't go after the money or anything like that. He was told not to do that. Now, what I'm saying to you is this guy here, it's not just going to be Donald Trump that's going to go down. There's going to be some Republicans, too. Now, yeah, they may trash him. Matter of fact, you and I can probably drink coffee over the fact that they're going to do it. But more people are paying attention now.
You think?
So, yeah. You got a lot of people.
All right.
You got a lot of people paying attention. I'm talking, Joe Sixpacks are paying attention. And when you guys start yapping at the mouth about, oh no, it's all partisan, people are going to see right through that. And believe me, I think what's going to happen, now it's just me thinking, all right? And we can all get in trouble if you follow me, but me thinks that they're going to go ahead. He's going to go ahead. He's going to pull a bunch of folks down. This is much bigger than Donald Trump. You and I both know that. Okay? And a special counsel, I'm repeating myself now, a special counsel is the perfect way to do it.
All right, I hear you. So you're saying Mueller was constrained because he was told, don't look at Trump's business, so he couldn't really follow the money. And
there's a lot of things that he wasn't supposed to look at.
and that Mueller couldn't indict because at that time Donald Trump was the president of the United States, and he had already said the Office of Legal Counsel prohibits the indictment of a sitting president. So you think that constrained Mueller, and that's why we got the result we got from the last special counsel that investigated Donald Trump, but that this special counsel is going to finally hold this guy to account. Okay.
Going to go full bore.
I hear you. All right. Well, thank you for your attempt to try and talk me off the ledge. It's going to take more than a day for me to wrap my brain around. It's going to.
Hey, y'all, get a rope. Grab this girl.
Happy Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you. Thank you. I love you, too. Thank you very much. Daniel in South Carolina.
I called to join you on that ledge. You and the previous caller just said it. There's some memos and norms where you don't go after a sitting president, and I don't even know why that memo exists, because sitting president shouldn't be committing crimes. You said it perfectly. Regardless of what we do or when we do it, they are going to say that it's simply political. Nobody is saying that it is simply political, that Donald Trump is announcing his candidacy 2 years before the election. Nobody is saying that it's political, that he did it right after the election in order to make the argument that it is simply political. And nobody is saying to Trump conservatives and Trump maggots that it is not political to hold somebody accountable for committing crimes. Why is nobody saying that? Why am I not hearing that on MSNBC?
Yeah, I don't know. So I agree with you, obviously. At this moment in time, I mean, like I said, I need a couple days to think this through. But obviously, he announced for the presidency to protect himself. Otherwise, why would he announce for the presidency after the third largest loss? Something history defining and defying that for the first time in since 1934, some crazy amount of time, a sitting president's party didn't lose the Senate, that a sitting president's party didn't get wiped out and lose six, right? So why did he come forward and announce after that kind of a loss, right? He did it because he's trying to buy time. He's trying to protect himself.
I would say it's because of the federal government, because of Georgia and New York state government. That's why he did it.
Yeah, and I don't know that that's going to protect him from Fani Willis in Georgia. I will tell you, next week, your lovely Lindsey Graham has to go testify in front of her grand jury.
Oh, listen, I don't claim him. You can have him.
I don't want him, but he's yours. Listen, I have to own Rick Scott. I have to own Rubio, and I have to own
yeah.
Right? So you have to own Lindsey. Sorry.
I feel your pain.
Yeah, I know you do. Well, thank you. I mean, like I said, We're going to need a couple days to, think this all the way through, figure out whether or not there's a large amount of ramp up time that will, keep them from, actually being able to do anything to Donald Trump in the next year. Holy crap. Gary in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, Randy, I have bad news for you.
Uh-oh.
Justice did not die in America today. It was in a coma until today, but today it was pronounced dead.
It flatlined?
Yep.
Oh,
and why do you say Lindsey Graham has to testify next week? Why should he testify? Nobody else does.
No, he has to. He went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that he has to testify, so now he has to show up.
He just won't show up. I'm sure he won't. I mean, he'll be told to by Trump not to show up. That's my guess.
Well, we'll see next Tuesday.
And if he does show up, he won't open his mouth.
He could invoke his Fifth Amendment right to not self-incriminate. He absolutely could, because look, what they want to talk to him about is the phone calls that he made saying, can't you just throw out the mail-in ballots? Can't you just throw them out? That's what he was calling Georgia. The guy's from South Carolina calling Georgia. And that's what he was calling Georgia to ask. Couldn't you just ignore some of those ballots? Couldn't you just not count them?
You know, Randy, when we saw Giuliani squirm off that hook last week, you knew this was coming.
I kind of did, but, I heard people talking about it. I know Lawrence Tribe, the constitutional scholar, is with you and me on this school of thought. And other people are saying, well, maybe this case was so well developed that it's ready for indictment, and Garland just didn't want to be the one to do it because it would or could or might seem political. So he staffed it out to a independent counsel.
Or maybe he was threatened or paid off.
I don't know, but he is a member of the Federalist Society. Merrick Garland, yeah.
Wonderful.
I know. Yeah, he is. But, listen, I don't even want to get into, denigrating any of the players here. I just want to kind of stay focused on the strategy, what it could be. And like I said, there are two schools of thought. One, it's ready to be indictable. It's indictable now, and he just handed off. And the other is, no, buying time.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created
equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Oh, this was fun to watch on Fox News. This is Laura Trump there, as you might recognize, with Stuart Varney. Stuart Varney telling Laura that, the Trumpian era is dead.
Those of us on the outside looking at it, it didn't seem that he got the old magic. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, I highly disagree with that. Look, for Donald Trump, from the very beginning, from the first day he came down the escalator in 2015 in Trump Tower, it's never been about elected officials, politicians, people, in the swamp in D.C. It's been about the American people. And if you look around the room last night, you had people from all different walks of life. The energy there at Mar-a-Lago was absolutely incredible. It really did, to me, feel like the 2015-2016 campaign.
No magic. Nobody felt it. Nobody was thrilled by it. Everybody was bored. It was boring, Laura. It was boring. It was the kiss of death boring. That's how boring it was. So anyway, it's interesting. It's fun to watch Fox stick the shiv in the exact same people that they propped up, that they ignored their wrongdoing, they ignored their criminality, they ignored their crime sprees, they ignored every breaking of every tradition, every norm in this nation. All for a little bit of power. It is really, at the end, it's Fargo, okay? And it's a beautiful day. It's just a beautiful day. And what was it all for? For a little bit of money, for a little bit. It's all basically a morality play gone bad, for the Trumps. It's just unbelievable. The evangelicals have now just thrown Trump overboard, which is real rich, I have to tell you. The comments from the evangelical right, from the leaders of the evangelical, right-wing churches, they're now all backstabbing Donald Trump and pretending like they never really liked him. He wasn't really their guy. They just kind of went along to get along, kind of a thing. They really didn't really support him the way that you might think. That's a lie. And they're not supposed to bear false witness. They're not supposed to be liars on top of everything else. They went along with Donald Trump. They actually covered up for all his crimes. They excused his disgusting behavior, his pee grabbing, a disdain for every other human being's right to be a human being. They went along with every single crime he ever committed. They pretended they didn't see it, or they said they excused it. And they said it was okay, all because they wanted a little bit of power. It was all about power. It was all about fundraising. It was all about money. It was all about their prosperity gospel and enriching themselves. And now the key evangelical figures who did support every damn thing that he did are now backing off. This is Mike Evans. He told the Washington Post, quote, "Donald Trump can't save America. He can't even save himself." He was one of the evangelicals that went to the White House and gave him awards. And this was way after he said, well, when you're a star, you can do whatever you want. You could do whatever you like. You can grab him by the P word. These are people that knew that, he was a disgusting, disgraceful example of a human being, that he wasn't religious at all, didn't, would mock everything that they would hold, supposedly dear. And they're saying, they're turning around going, this is amazing. Robert Jeffress, one of the evangelical advisors to Donald Trump, he said this: he used us to win the White House. We had to close our mouths and our eyes when he said things that horrified us. I can't do that anymore. Oh, now you can't. Why? Because he's not going to win, because he doesn't represent a path to power for you. You never cared about Jesus. You never cared about salvation. You never cared about other people's souls. You never cared about any of it. None of it. You cared about power. Power. And Jeffress said, the Republican Party is headed toward a civil war that I have no desire or need to be a part of, but I will happily support Trump again if he wins the nomination. Talk about having your cake and eating it too. Oh, it's disgusting. And James Robeson of Life Outreach International, quote, if Mr. Trump can't stop his petty issues, how does he expect people to stop major issues? I don't even know what that means, but he said he tweeted at Donald Trump, quote, sir, you act like a little elementary school child and you shoot yourself in the foot every morning you get up and open your mouth. The more you keep your mouth closed, the more successful you're going to be. He wouldn't say if he would support Trump if he got the nomination in 2024. And another evangelical figure who endorsed Trump was even more blunt. Okay, he spoke to the Washington Times, which is a completely right-wing rag. His name's Everett Piper. He said the take-home of this past week is simple: Donald Trump has to go. If he's our nominee in 2024, we will get destroyed. That's the only reason why they're separating themselves from him, not because he's an embarrassment, not because he's a sinner, not because he's an irredeemable, unrepentant piece of dew, not because he's anti-democratic, not because he's an autocrat, not because he's I alone can fix it, cult of one. No, they're doing it because they don't think he's the path to power anymore. That's just sick. So when you look at, the annals of law and you look at justice in this country and you start to think maybe justice is dead. Maybe we're not a nation of laws anymore. Maybe we are a nation of cults and men and blah, blah, blah. Well, I just want you to know that the cults of men are also unreliable. You're going to have to go to yourself for salvation. You're going to have to go to yourself for answers. You're going to have to go inside, go deep, and figure out where you stand on democracy and issues of massive importance to the continuation of this here experiment known as America. Because I just don't think there's anybody out there that's very interested in solving those riddles for you. I think it's all become such a player's game, where the playing field is tilted towards the powerful, the elite, the well-connected, the swamp. And Donald Trump was always part of the swamp. And the evangelical leaders are all part of the swamp. They actually bet on the swamp. They were rooting for the swamp to win. All to enrich themselves. They need one more plane. They need one more jet. They need one more Rolls Royce. They need one more, mansion. So sad. So sad that people can be so bamboozled and so conned by one, I don't know, by the time Donald Trump ever faces the bar of justice for anything that he's ever done in his incredibly sick and twisted and horrific life that should have been, a life of philanthropy, a life of giving, a life of decency, he was given every opportunity just by birth. Just by birth, just by being born to Fred, he inherited a large freaking chunk of change. Could have done so much good in this world. But no. He used his money to buy ads, to be racist, to say, the Central Park Five, and insist that they go to jail, that they were guilty before anybody even knew anything about that crime. And of course, they were not guilty. He used his fortune to discriminate against black renters, wouldn't show them apartments. His life was so full of hatred and judgment, so full of, self-enrichment and power and the lust for it, so full of, even gluttony. Every one of the 7 deadly sins. But the evangelicals were willing to go along because they thought it was the path to power for them. Really sad, really sick, really twisted. Indecent, actually. Unholy. It was an abortion. An abortion. The whole Trump presidency, the whole evangelical community, it's an abortion, something evil and unholy.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I think this might be the new minority leader. This is Hakeem Jeffries from New York.
So-called GOP red wave turned into a red wedding for extreme MAGA Republicans and election deniers in race after race after race all across the country. Here's the Republican response. The cult leader should run again. And we're going to double and triple down on extremism. We're going to double and triple down on a nationwide abortion ban. We're going to double and triple down on attacks on our democracy, and we want to eliminate Social Security and Medicare. That's extraordinary. But that is the modern day Republican Party, as compared to Democrats who deliver big things for the American people on the issues that matter, including around the economy, job creation, lower costs, and safer communities.
And climate change. Just saying, Hakeem. So I think that might be the new minority leader of the House. And, he's not incorrect when he says that the modern Republican Party is so extreme that it was rejected in a red wedding betrayal of the red wave ideology, of the red wave belief that it was going to happen. And I know this because Josh Hawley, yes, Josh Hawley, one of America's working people. What did he go to, Harvard, Yale, both? Yeah. Josh Hawley, actually, he is a Republican senator from Missouri who has presidential aspirations, serves in the United States Senate currently. He actually wrote an editorial today that the Washington Post printed. I'm surprised the paper didn't just burst into flames with the amount of lying that went on here. But here's what his first statement in the first sentence of his first paragraph for his editorial debut in the Washington Post said today, quote, "The old Republican Party is dead. It has been wasting away for years now." You mean the Trump years, Josh? That you support? I'm telling you right now, the evangelicals are going to burst into flames. Josh Hawley's going to burst into flames with the Graham when he puts his hand on the Bible. If he does show up for the deposition on Tuesday, it's not even a deposition. It's testimony in front of a special grand jury in Georgia, in Fulton County. Okay, if there was any such thing as a God who judges good and evil, they would burst into flames right in front of your face. These people are disgusting. The way, the disingenuous way that they pose themselves, depending on the path to power, the parasitical nature of these blood-sucking, front-running phonies. The old Republican Party is dead. It's been wasting away for years now. He said this month's midterm results are the finishing blow. Oh, blow this. He says that the Republican Party has to represent America's working people. With what? Your right to work status, your inability for people to join a union, your 100% rejection of a child tax credit? Because that's what they were about. They literally voted in lockstep against a child tax credit. They literally voted against, in lockstep, the Build Back Better. They literally voted in lockstep against the PACT Act. They voted against holding people accountable for sex trafficking just the other day. These are the most disgusting human beings I've ever seen in my life. I just, any way the wind blows, doesn't really matter. Mama killed a man, put a gun against his head. Oh, speaking of Herschel Walker. Holy crapola. This is the quality of candidate. And he's actually writing in this Washington Post editorial that he said, over the past week, we've heard this election is about nothing more than candidate quality. Wrong. Really? That's not the problem? That's not the problem.
What we need to do is get rid of those 87,000 RS agents that's going to go after you. Maybe we need to put some of those police officers in our schools to protect our kids. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. But yet, we got people in Washington that gotten too weak. All they want to do is let people ride their bike. That's what Senator Warnock is doing. Let Joe Biden ride his bike because he voted with him 96% of the time, which means he don't know what he's doing or he's seen to love Joe Biden. I don't know which one it is, but I can tell you both of them is wrong.
Okay, somebody's going to have to explain to me, somebody from Georgia, what does ride your bike mean? Because he keeps saying it. He keeps saying that's all they want to do is ride your bike. I've never seen him so amped up. I've never seen him this, let's say, manic as this particular speech that he gave the other day. This one was way, way amped up. He was totally bizarre. But it's not about candidate quality, according to Josh Hawley. No. He said the problem isn't principally candidate quality. The problem is substance. For the past 2 years, the Republican establishment in Washington has capitulated on issue after issue. He said the problem was that they caved into Democrats with background checks on the Second Amendment and on building infrastructure. He said they caved in because, the infrastructure package was bipartisan. He said they shouldn't have given the infrastructure package the go-ahead. He also said that the Republican politicians who sided with Big Pharma on insulin and advocated for lower tariffs on our competitors overseas is what people were voting against. What? Your guy is definitely going down in Georgia, okay? The devil went down to Georgia. He's looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind because he was way behind, and so he decided to tell a story about vampires.
You ever watch a stupid movie late at night hoping it's going to get better, don't get better, but you keep watching it anyway? Because the other night I was watching this movie. I was watching this movie called Freak Night, or some type of night, but it was about vampires. I don't know if you know vampires are some cool people, are they not? But I'm going to tell you something that I found out. A werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that? I never knew that, so I didn't want to be a vampire anymore. I wanted to be a werewolf. But then anyway, as I'm watching this movie, and then you can tell how stupid it is because it's 1 in the morning. So I'm watching my TV. These kids watching their TV, vampire kill on their TV. So you know it's kind of stupid, but I'm still watching though. As I'm watching this show, what was funny, these kids had a vampire in their attic at their house. So they were watching their TV. Now I'm watching my TV, as they watching their TV, or they see the vampire killer on their TV. So they win this contest to bring this actor. Now y'all got to stay with me. Bring this actor who's a vampire killer from that TV to get rid of this real life vampire in their attic.
Okay, you get it? I don't. Has nothing to do with candidate quality. It has to do with background checks and caving into the Democrats on background checks and the left's radical climate agenda. And then in parentheses and quotes, he puts infrastructure. Why? They should have voted against infrastructure. They should have voted against repairing your roads, bridges, tunnels. They should have voted against, investing in, us. This man is bizarre, okay? And then he tries to say that, he's all about the people. He's all about, he said, this is about being able to make a living. This is all that the Republicans have to represent, being able to raise a family on one paycheck. Well, you're a little late to the party. You're a little late. Yeah, no. He wants you to get woke now, he's saying. Get woke.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Carrie Lake here. I wanted to reach out to you to let you know that I am still in this fight with you. For 2 years, I've been sounding the alarm about our broken election system here in Arizona, and this past week has confirmed everything we've been saying. When we called for Katie Hobbs to recuse herself over a year ago, they ridiculed us. It turns out we were right. The fox was guarding the hen house, and because of that, voters have been disenfranchised.
Carrie Loser, Lake Loser, Carrie Loser Lake is still out there. She went to Magaloco last night. Okay, that's where she is. She's here. Going to fight. She's going to fight this election denier. But, I will accept the results if I win. She had no problem with, the Secretary of State running the elections in Georgia when he was running for governor. She had no problem with that. And she had no problem with Katie Hobbs being the Secretary of State until she lost. And you know why? The Secretary of State doesn't count the votes. The county clerks count the votes. You understand that? So anyway, she's just being, a loser, a really bad one, an ugly one, a nasty one. Josh Hawley, on the other hand, he's decided he's going to do a 180. And now all of a sudden, Josh Hawley, who was an election denier, Josh Hawley, who refused to, impeach Donald Trump for the insurrection or remove him or vote, to hold him accountable for any of the violence that was visited upon the United States Capitol. Now all of a sudden, he's an uber patriot, everybody. He's an uber patriot saying that the Republican Party has been wasting away for many years now. And recently, the modern American GOP is dead. It's dead. It's time to be on the side of the working class, the working man, the families. He said work, family, and culture are the touchstones of meaning for working people across the country. They must form the bedrock of the new party agenda. The bedrock. These are people he wouldn't give a child tax credit to. These are people he wouldn't vote to expand Medicaid for. These are people he wouldn't, that they wanted to repeal and replace Obamacare without a replacement for Obamacare. These people are such front-running phonies. They are such sore losers. They are bad losers. They are just bad people. There's no question about it. This entire modern Republican Party are a bunch of historic criminals. I've never seen such parasitical behavior in my life. And then he says, it's time for proactive policy making. No nation ever got strong by consuming stuff other people make. We need an economy that produces critical goods here in this country and creates good paying jobs for working people. Meanwhile, they weren't for the CHIPS Act, which was investing in making our own semiconductors here in the United States of America and building semiconductor plants all over this country, in the heartland, in the Rust Belt, in the deindustrialized Midwest. That was us. That was us who passed that. They voted against every bit of progress that this president and the Democrats made in spite of them, including the child tax credit, which, by the way, took half of America's poorest children out of poverty. And then they let it expire, and they just don't want to vote for it. But he's sitting here preaching to me about middle America and its needs, wants, hopes, and dreams. You have no earthly connection to me. You have no earthly connection to working people, to small business owners, to people who work 2 jobs or 1 job, but work from, sleep on the floor. This is what Elon Musk, you got to be hardcore if you want to work for me. You got to spend like morning till night toiling for me, making me not regret my $44 billion spend on a social media platform when I have absolutely no experience in social media. I don't know what I'm doing, nor do I particularly care. But you're going to toil for me. You're going to work hardcore for me. You're going to sleep on the floor for me, or else don't come to work. Don't bother. I'll let the whole thing die. I'll let it break bit by bit. People are expecting that Twitter's going to disappear, that it's just going to poof, one day it's not going to disappear. It's going to break. It's going to break. Back end problems are going to start to bleed into the front end, meaning the stuff that happens on the back end, you're going to start to see on your app. You're going to start to see it on Twitter. You're going to start to see it on the platform, stuff that broke. And that's how it dies. It dies from attrition. It dies from neglect. And he always intended for that to be the way. Always. Then he'll declare bankruptcy, and so all the creditors and anybody that he owes money to won't be able to collect anything. That's just the way big business works, right? And we're supposed to be patient with them. We're supposed to, acknowledge that they're bigger than we are. They get to break rules. They get to break things. They get to take from us over and over and over again without penalty, without any consequences, because they're bigger than we are. They're bigger. And that's America. The bigger you are, the better for you. Used to be the bigger you are, the harder you fall. No, not anymore. The bigger you are, the more protection you get. The Federal Trade Commission, we laugh. He's laughing. He's literally violating the Federal Trade Commission's consent decrees. And he's laughing all the way to, the next banking experience. Unbelievable. But last night, everybody, all on Twitter, it was trending at the end of Twitter. Twitter's over. Twitter's dead. Twitter died. People were tweeting, if this is my last tweet, I just want you to know, I will never buy a Tesla, It doesn't die that way. It just breaks bit by bit by bit by bit. It's like if I don't update my plugins on my stupid little website, okay? All of a sudden you start getting 404 errors. He's not going to go to the big 404 in the sky overnight. It's just going to break bit by bit, piece by piece. He's firing even more people. They're trolling him now. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Twitter headquarters was trolled from a company across the street from Twitter headquarters with a projectionist who was, projecting, billionaire baby on his building. And he was a space Karen, they were calling him.
It is an understatement to call the last 24 hours chaotic for Twitter, or the whole time since Elon Musk bought the company. We are witnessing what could be an epic meltdown in real time. Twitter employees have rejected Elon Musk's, quote, hardcore ultimatum And there's a mass exodus going on at the company this morning. In response, Twitter closed its offices, all of them, suspended employee badge access, leaving the company's future completely thrown into uncertainty. And take a look at this. This is the company headquarters in San Francisco. Last night, someone took it upon themselves to troll the mogul with a number of projected messages such as bankruptcy baby and, quote, worthless billionaire.
Space Karen. Subversive racist, megalomaniac. Yeah, just broadcasting that across his building with a projector. This is the new way that people make their opinions known in America now. You know, they just Kanye was right, like that stuff. This is it now. This is the new thing. Meanwhile, he bought something we all love, and because he could buy it and take it private and answer to nobody, he's just going to let it die, and we won't be able to talk to each other. Great.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
It's the end of an era.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi passing the torch on Capitol Hill.
For me, the hours come for a new generation to lead the Democratic caucus that I so deeply respect.
Pelosi was the first and only female Speaker of the House.
When I first came to the floor at 6 years old, never would I have thought that someday I would go from homemaker to House Speaker.
An icon to Democrats and a villain to Republicans, Pelosi was a polarizing figure who spent 2 decades as the House Democratic leader, and many Republicans are happy to see her go.
One-party Democrat rule in Washington is finished. We have fired Nancy Pelosi.
She took the Speaker's gavel for the first time in 2007, and in her farewell address paid homage to the presidents she worked with.
I have enjoyed working with 3 presidents.
She notably left one out, Donald Trump, who she clashed with, pointing him down during a cabinet meeting, sauntering out of the West Wing in sunglasses, and tearing up a copy of his State of the Union from the dais in the House chamber. Her move comes just weeks after her husband Paul was assaulted inside their San Francisco home. Pelosi thanking the audience for their support in the aftermath. Her exit opens the door for a new crop of leaders. Chief among them, New York's Hakeem Jeffries, who's the favorite to take over as Democratic leader. Jeffries would be the first black leader of either party in Congress and will face a Republican majority ready to take direct aim at the Biden White House.
This is an investigation of Joe Biden, the President of the United States.
All this while Pelosi takes on an emeritus role, still serving in Congress, guiding her successors. The Speaker reflecting on her historic career in 2019 with Savannah.
You probably are the most powerful woman in government.
In the United States, yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
Do you think about that as a personal accomplishment?
No, I think of it as a responsibility.
She's a badass. And I it's the end of an era. She is a complete and total badass, okay? She didn't give a damn what people called her. She didn't give a damn if people judged her. She didn't give a flip about her public image. She cared about moving legislation for the American people. Her primary impetus, her primary, a goal was to make things better for children who she believed were the most important citizens in America. And she governed that way. Okay. And she understood every single one of the members of her caucus, which are Democrats that span all definitions of, of life. OK, you had your blue dogs, your yellow dogs, you had your progressive caucus, you had the Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. I mean, all these disparate groups of people all coming together under one leader who understood what they needed to succeed, not necessarily what they wanted, but always what they needed to succeed, and made sure they had a pathway to what they needed in order to prevail, in order to succeed, in order to, get their constituents to understand what the issue was and go with them on this journey. She literally thwarted some of the worst legislation. Do you remember when George W. Bush tried to privatize Social Security? Do you remember that? She made it go away, okay? She organized and made it go away. And she never hogged the credit for anything. Nothing ever. And, you know, listen, there were lots of times I disagreed with her. Lots of times I wanted her to go further. But I'm not in the caucus. I didn't understand, you know, what she knew about each and every member of the caucus. And she was able to not bring a piece of legislation to the floor without knowing whether or not she had the votes for it. She was measured. She was smart. She didn't give a damn about herself. She was selfless. She was strikingly effective. And, for this, she became the boogeyman to the right. For this, she became a fundraising tool for the right. And for this, her husband, at 82 years old, got his head bashed in. And instead of Republicans saying all political violence is bad, we denounce it, we repudiate it, we don't accept it, they decided to make conspiracy theories up about it. They're very sad people. They really are. They're very sad and sick people. She was just, she's still there. I mean, you know, she's still going to be there to, advise. And I'm sure that whoever gets the leadership position, and I'm guessing it is Hakeem Jeffries from New York, which is good because those 4 seats, they screwed up the gerrymander in New York. You know, they were supposed to redistrict in New York after the census, and they did, and they screwed it up so bad that the court not only rejected their map, the Democrats' map, but appointed a special master then to draw the map, not an independent commission, which is what Michigan went with, which produced the most amazing equal result. I mean, you had Republicans and Democrats equally represented in their district, and then whoever showed up, and voted, won. Oh, there's a concept. Brother David.
Sister. Preach. It's true. Here I am on a fraught, frozen, fractured, front-running, phony, fascist Friday. We are literally, I'm looking at my backyard right now, and it looks like the Winter Palace in Dr. Zhivago. Yeah, it's real cold, but we're blue.
But that's pretty. Bluer. That's so pretty, though.
It is very pretty. A moment of salute to La Pelosi, whom I also frequently disagreed with, especially the 40 years in California, and she's still there. You know,
and she produced.
He was still there in the Senate.
But she produced.
Boy, did she produce. Absolutely.
I mean, everything from the ACA to preventing the privatization of Social Security under W, all the way down to this particular, administration with a divided House and Senate. She was able to get infrastructure, the PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was really a climate change investment, and a way. Allowing Medicare to negotiate the price of prescription drugs with Big Pharma, something that has never, ever, ever been possible before. I mean, this was amazing leadership. Sorry.
I agree. Yeah. Remember when Shrub's second term and they lost, we'd got a wampum, and she put on the head scarf and she went over to Saudi Arabia because you just don't know. Yeah, she's always on top of it.
Amazing. Nobody outworked her. Nobody outthought her.
No, I'm with you there. Yeah. I'm totally with you. La Pelosi, that's who she is and that's who she'll be. And you had a caller last week that brought up the idea of her and Steny Hoyer and other seniors talking to some of these incoming, maybe in a shaky seat, Republicans. Uh-huh. There are precedents for that in our history. Because here's the thing. Quick shout out to the chat room. Hi, chat room. You know what to do. California is still counting. And while the greedy oligarchic Putin heads have technically got control of the House, it is going to be by the slimmest of margins, and everything they do is going to have a spotlight turned on them.
They're not going to do anything except investigate. They're not going to do anything. Josh Hawley could write all he wants about how he's for the working man. Exactly. They're not going to pass one single solitary piece of legislation.
My point entirely, right. and self-evident. Long game, sister. Long game. We have seen last week's election, but the first kick down that,
loser path. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right.
There's still not just that there's more of us. there's more of us that are getting it. Your previous caller today brought that up, that people are starting to pay attention.
Yeah.
You think?
I mean, think about this, okay? So Nancy Pelosi's husband is beaten with a hammer.
Thank you.
Okay, by some Republican acolyte, some sick psycho kid who believed all the bull crap that the Republicans have shoveled into his brain over the last 4 or 5 years, right? And you look at the way that Nancy Pelosi handled it. We had a midterm election coming. She was calm. She was cool. She was collected. Her composure didn't affect the battle plan. Okay, and yet I'm sure there were some people who voted because they thought the political violence had gone too far. There's no question. But can you imagine if like this had happened the other way and Trump was on I mean, honestly, he would have doubled down, tripled down on violent response. You need to respond to their violence by being violent to them.
Gorgeous girdles for everyone, Randy.
Thank you.
And it requires us all working together, and I believe we are.
I do too. Stay warm, stay safe.
You as well.
Thank you. Bye. Enjoy it. Yeah, it's beginning to look a lot like Over the River and Through the Woods to Grandmother's House we go up there. He's in Michigan. My friend Rebecca, hi Rebecca. She's in Grand Isle, New York. That's right near Buffalo. She's very excited about the snow. She loves the snow. But we're talking like 5 feet. Which is too much of a good thing, I think, because that's very heavy. But stay safe, stay warm, have some nice food, and start cooking, everybody. Start cooking. We'll be here next week, Monday and Tuesday. So see you then.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
The magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Tonight, a sanctuary of peaceful celebration and expression torn apart by every pull of the trigger.
This is just a hard day for everyone, for sure.
That safe haven shattered when a gunman stormed the long-standing LGBTQ club in Colorado Springs.
There's always going to be people that just hate that I exist for no real reason.
While police have yet to confirm a motive, the assault is likely part of a disturbing trend. Last year, anti-gay crimes surged by more than 50%, up slightly in the first half of this year. The latest attack stirring up memories of the 2016 Pulse nightclub mass shooting. 49 people gunned down in Orlando, the second deadliest shooting in American history. Now, another historically painful day.
We are again. We have been screaming from the tops of mountains, the LGBTQ leadership, that an environment like this is being created of violence against our community. And so to see it play out this morning or late last night was horrible yet again.
Hate crimes increasing for the 4th year in a row, driven in larger U.S. cities by incidents targeting Asian, Jewish, and LGBTQ communities.
You've seen it around all of these marginalized communities whose voices take up a smaller piece of the pie in this country, but need more protection because we're victims and we're being targeted by these extremist communities.
Just yesterday in New York, police thwarted a potential attack against the Jewish community, arresting 2 armed men in Penn Station, one wearing a swastika. The NYPD now ramping up police presence in communities that are potential targets. Tonight, Colorado, a community wounded but not broken.
I mean, how many times are we going to say, no more? How many times do we have to say how many times? This is repetitive and ugly, and it's being incited by lunatics who, think that God loves a bigot. I honestly, Lauren Boebert was tweeting thoughts and prayers on the Twitter, and this is a person that lied about transgendered kids and lied about furries in school and litter boxes and the whole 9 yards. Just lies and lies and lies and lies, and then tweets photos of her indoctrinating her own children into the gun culture, right? and uses that as a Christmas card because, you know, an AR is the reason for the season, according to the Boebert household. Listen, this is so... It's so predictable. It's like, you know, it happens almost twice a day in the United States of America. You understand that? I mean, we have like there's this weird statistic, okay, 1.85 mass shootings per day in the United States. How bad is it when you can come up with an average number of mass shootings per day for a country? And our country can do that. I mean, I am so sad and I'm so sick of it. And I'm so tired of it. And it's like, you know, we have this whole new industry for flower purchasing, right? Whole new, segment of the population needs to buy flowers now. People who are going to lay flowers at the slain, at the site of a mass shooting, they have to buy their flowers. And, you know, if it's a gay shooting, I think we all know the drill. If it's a gay shooting, you have to buy flowers and a gay pride flag. If it's a school shooting, then you use the school insignia and Mylar balloons. Teddy bears if it's an elementary school shooting. Oh, yes. This is crazy. And you have an entire political party that is invested in this kind of hatred. An entire political party that refuses to solve very difficult problems for this country, refuses to be serious about even intending to solve serious problems, and instead run on repeatedly hatred, run repeatedly on bigotry, run repeatedly on fear and scaremongering, and it's not going to stop. It isn't going to stop because of this particular election that showed those lunatics that they could get reelected or elected if they were hateful enough. I mean, Lauren Boebert just got, reelected. It'll probably be, I think it's an automatic recount because that's the law in Colorado. Less than 0.5% triggers an automatic recount. It's not that anybody's going to ask for one. But, the guy that ran against her, Mr. Frisch, he actually conceded to her and she won by 550 votes in a very Republican Western Slope portion of Colorado simply because she was hateful enough, simply because she made people fear gay people.
It's supremacy of gays and lesbians and transvestites. I mean, like, that's what this is about.
Transvestites. That's what this is about. It's it's giving them more rights than you. It's supremacy. Yes, it's gay supremacy. I honestly, somebody in this country has got to become the leader for civil discourse. Somebody's got to model. Somebody has to lead the charge against hatred, pure, unadulterated hatred, pure, unadulterated fear of the other, which then fosters hatred of the other. The scapegoating thing that they have perfected in that party is really getting dead. Well, it is deadly. It's totally deadly, but it's not going to abate. It's not going to get less. There's these incidents are going to happen more and more and more and more because of the kind of rhetoric that comes out of a party that has absolutely no ability to solve problems, let alone a desire to do that. They really couldn't care less about whatever it is that we care about. They couldn't care less about, inequality. They couldn't care less about the economy. They couldn't care less about the price of gas. They couldn't care less about the price of food or turkeys or, telling you that, the reason why turkeys are $2.50 a pound, $2.50 a pound this year instead of like $1.50 is because the turkey farmers experienced a massive avian flu epidemic. No, they want to tell you Joe Biden did this to you. It's Joe Biden's fault. It's Democrats' fault. That's why turkey is $2.50 a pound. No, it's because there was an avian flu outbreak. And some of the farms that weren't able to protect themselves from the avian flu outbreak lost an enormous amount of turkeys to the avian flu, and others who had protocols in place were able to, avoid the avian flu pandemic on their particular poultry farm. So, I mean, but look, they have no interest in even telling you the basic facts of things. They just like to blame and point and accuse and make you fear and think that that person is out to get you or bad or paranoia. And I'm telling you, the problem with their message for all of you out there that are going to say, but they have a First Amendment right to say it. Yeah, they do. But the problem is that people who are mentally ill, people who have problems, people who have developmental problems, people who have mental health issues, they hear this too. They hear these same messages. And it turns out that these people, and I'm by these, I'm talking about the three young men, white kids, who two of them were going to attack a synagogue in New York, and one of them shot up a gay nightclub. They all suffered from mental illness. They all had issues. Okay, the kid in Colorado, he actually went to his mother's house and threatened her with a bomb. He was, there was a standoff with police at his mother's house last year. And then this guy's able to go out and buy a gun. Why? Because the sheriff in that county didn't feel like, enforcing the red flag laws that Colorado has. But the sheriff in El Paso County, he didn't feel like it. He thought it was, stupid. He shouldn't have to enforce red flag laws. The other two in New York that were preempted from their little caper in going in and shooting up a synagogue, those two were both mentally ill. They met each other in a group home. One of the kids is Jewish. That's right. So one of the kids is Jewish, and the other one he met in his group home.
Clear for takeoff. All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
The Jewish community continues to be on high alert, although a major threat was stopped in its tracks at Penn Station on Saturday night. Police arrested 21-year-old Christopher Brown from Long Island and 22-year-old Matthew Maurer from Manhattan. Brown has a known history of mental illness. Police say they recovered several items, including a large hunting knife, an illegal Glock 17 firearm, and a 30-round magazine.
We have a couple of very talented threat intelligence analysts who are in, for lack of a better term, the sort of sewers of the internet.
Mitchell Silbers with Community Security Initiative, one of the organizations that tracked down Maurer and Brown. They combed through online forums and found their threats to unspecified New York synagogues.
This is one of those situations where you only have some pieces of the puzzle, so you do the best you can. We ultimately found out that he was in Long Island. We thought he was coming into New York, but no one really knew where or what his target was.
Sources say Brown was found wearing a swastika armband.
Nice.
Roz Rothenstein with education organization Stand With Us has a message for the two young men awaiting arraignment.
Take a breath, take a trip to the Holocaust Museum, learn about the history of the Jewish people and how they've been targeted and harmed, and, go to therapy, for God's sake.
Yes, go to therapy, for God's sake. These kids were in group homes. They aged out of the group home. One of the kids, his mother said that she had tried to reach out to the group home to find out, this is her story, find out what kind of insurance her son had, and that the group home wasn't helpful, and so she couldn't find out what kind of insurance her son had, but she was going to take her son for a follow-up mental health treatment on Friday, but he left, and he met his friend, and then the rest is this story. I mean, there are mentally ill people that share this country with us. Unless and until we get serious about treating mental illness as a serious and treatable disease, some of it is, most of it is, some of it isn't, but people need care. And instead of, aggravating and doubling down on paranoia and fear and pointing and scapegoating and blaming others for difficult problems that we have as a nation, that other nations have as well. You know, I keep telling you, inflation is global. It is. It's a global thing. We're doing better than most other countries are doing with their inflation. That's for sure. But, you know, you've got wild-eyed, ambitious wannabe, representatives and senators and state senators and assemblymen and all of this who find it advantageous to spread paranoia, fear, loathing, hatred, and say things like, prop up some of the most mentally ill people that we have that are, still lucid enough to run for office. And they get propped up. I mean, Herschel Walker is not okay. All right? He's not okay. There's something going on with that person. He has been previously diagnosed and obviously he is not okay. The crap he says, the stuff he spews, the fact that he thinks that he's superior and more important than other people, the fact that he rambles on, and at some appearances he's like really speedy, and at other appearances he's just deranged. Lauren Boebert, who thinks it's appropriate to indoctrinate children into a war culture, a warring culture, a gun culture, where the gun is larger than her toddler, featured in a Christmas card photo. That is not normal behavior. That is not motherly behavior. That's not maternal behavior. That's not the kind of behavior that your mother displayed towards you. And for some reason, Republican moms of today think it's all okay while they're screaming at other people that they're indoctrinating children into some damn thing. What? They're indoctrinating children into a festive culture. They're indoctrinating children into dancing. They're indoctrinating children into, tolerance and understanding that all humans have a place. Listen, this is the whole thing about, getting parents to go to school boards and scream at school boards about grooming and teaching racism. When you talk about the history of America, it does involve a certain amount of racism. So I don't know what it is about this, party that actually encourages people to be meaner and more aggressive in their meanness and more sure in their hatred and more aggrieved than most. But that is what's going on. And the kind of gun violence that we see in this country, you don't see anywhere else. You just don't. This Colorado started in 1999 with Columbine, right? Columbine High School. What was that? 12 kids and a teacher, right? 20 others injured. This one here is 5 dead, 30 injured. Now we're finding out 30. 2001, some gunman opened fire at an RV park and a grocery store that was frequented by Mexican immigrants, killing 4, injuring 3. He surrendered to the police. 2007, a guy killed 4, injured 5 at a Christian missionary training center in Arvada. Then killed 2 more at a mega church in Colorado Springs, and then killed himself. 2012, was the Aurora movie theater. That was that was so scary, because there you were inside watching, what was it, Batman? Was it a Batman movie? And there's violence on the screen, and there it is in like real life. And 58 people were injured, 12 dead. 2015. A gunman killed 3 people and injured 9 others at a reproductive health clinic. And then in 2021, a gunman shot and killed 10 people at King Soopers in Boulder. He was taken into custody. Yay, we got one. 2021, another gunman killed 5 people in a shooting rampage in the Denver area. He was fatally shot by a police officer. And here we are in 2022 with some guy. And this is crazy. They're investigating this as a hate crime. Investigating it as a... What was your first clue, Columbo? What was your first clue that he may have been targeting, a demographic? And they're still now the whole investigation is under seal. You understand? They're not going to release any information about whether or not this was a hate crime until, they get done with their investigation and they get to the charging phase of, this. I mean, I can't tell you how unacceptable this ought to be to every single American. To every single person, that this is a chance to literally say there's a problem in this country with hatred, and there's a problem in this country with an armed citizenry. There's a problem in this country. We're awash in guns. There's so much gun violence and there's too much hatred. And you match those two things together, and the next thing you know, you're buying flowers and Mylar balloons. I mean, honestly, what is it going to take before everybody gets serious about it? And what do the crazy billionaires do? Okay, the crazy billionaires. Oh, hey, let's restore Trump's Twitter account. Hey, let's put Ye back on Twitter. Let's put Ye back on. On the weekend where you had threats against a New York synagogue, okay? Let's put Ye back on. And idiot boy, what does he do? He tweets shalom, right? To, troll people, to mock people, to, own the libs. And where was he this weekend? He's running around with Milo Yiannopoulos, okay, and other white supremacists, Nick Fuentes. Yeah, Ye is running around with white supremacists. How much crazier can you get?
Clear. 40. Call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
I was in Michigan, and a man told me that his son got in trouble because he stepped on a furry's tail in school. And I said, well, I don't think, what's a furry? I've never seen one. We got bears, we got wolves, praise the Lord, thanks Boulder. We got eagles. What's a furry? And he said, well, it's someone who thinks they're a cat or a dog. I said, dear Lord, that sounds like an identity crisis. I think your son needs to go to school and identify as a trapper.
Yeah, as a trapper, so that they can kill the kids.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what exactly is she inferring with that?
She's inferring that they should kill the kids that think that they're cats or dogs. But you know what? That's not even, there is no furry epidemic in the school system in the United States of America. This is all garbage that was, thought up, thunk up by, Republicans who are running out of enemies. And so they created a whole new genre of enemy called furries. Okay, and they're literally out there all over the internet. I don't know how many of you actually know about, how often these stories of furries and teachers having to put litter boxes in classrooms or litter boxes in the coat closet so that the furry children can go pee. But this is garbage. This is a lie. It's made up stuff. And, the fringiest of the fringe are being told it's real. The fringy, you got to remember, we do have about 30% of America that thinks that, there is an entire political party that drinks the blood of babies for adrenochrome or some such thing as an anti-aging technique or an anti-aging treatment. And that we are, as Democrats, we are literally capturing children and, running, trafficking in children so we could drink their blood. I mean, really, they think that. So when you have people that far gone, and you have people that mentally ill, you have people that have a need to belong to something so badly that they will belong to a cult that tells them that this is really happening in the United States, that it's really going on. Well, then it's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from saying that there are kids in school that are identifying as animals and that their teachers are having to put litter boxes in the classrooms. This kind of bullcrap is playing very well with the mentally unhinged, the mentally unstable, the mentally wanting in this country. And and because guns are so easily accessible, and because they're everywhere, and because you have sheriffs that literally have the tools, they have red flag laws, they have the tools, where a person like this shooter in Colorado was clearly identified by police as being somebody who was threatening his own mother with violence, with bombs, okay, and engaged in a standoff with the police, should never have been allowed to buy a gun because of red flag laws that are in place in Colorado. But the sheriff in his county decided he didn't feel like enforcing that one. He just, it wasn't something he was into. So he chose not to enforce the red flag law that would have prevented this person from getting a gun. So this person got a gun and went into a gay nightclub and immediately started shooting. Now, why is that an important detail? Well, that's an important detail because it shows he wasn't looking for anybody. He was targeting people of a certain persuasion. And we could all, pretend that it's people who love to dance, but I don't think that was it. And it's all being fed by a machine that's literally turning us all into, chop meat. That's literally grinding us down to nothing, to nubs of our former selves. And the billionaire class, well, it just can't happen fast enough. Because the unwashed masses, we put up a fight. And they don't want to hear it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to know it. They don't want us democratized, meaning, this is the thing about social media, okay? Social media is the most democratic platform there is in the world, right? Because here you have a platform where nobodies and, somebodies can, criticize each other. You have a platform where billionaires can actually listen to somebody that's not a yes man. They can listen to somebody that's going to criticize their behavior, is going to criticize their decision-making, going to criticize their choices, is going to criticize the fact that they aren't self-made, that they inherited their money and they're using their money to benefit themselves. And they are literally trying to delegitimize and de-democratize the most democratic, platform we have, which is Twitter. Listen, they don't want us to be democratized. They don't like us being able to weigh in. They don't like the idea that ordinary people can actually get into a conversation with the well-heeled, with the upper class, the upper crusty, the well-situated, the well-funded. They don't like it. Rich in Denver.
Randy, awesome show as usual. I can't. I'm like you. I'm just beside myself. I'm sickened and saddened, and it's just, I was telling Brett that this person, his grandfather is a
California assemblyman. Yeah.
Yeah.
A guy that actually cheered for January 6th. Yeah.
Died in the wool, yeah, exactly. Died in the wool Trumpanzee, and just about every sheriff in the Colorado County, when Governor Polis signed in the red flag laws, they all said, including this cuckoo in El Paso sheriff, said that they weren't going to enforce the red flag laws.
That's right.
Now, they're all gun crazy, gun toting, wackadoodles, and you were saying earlier, Randy, it's the hate sells too. The hate, and like you've always said, when you create chaos, hate makes money too. They make money on selling hate, pure and simple. Full stop. It's just, and I'm just sickened, and I must apologize for this stupid thing that's going back to D.C. in Lauren Hofer, who's got a husband that's a pedophile.
Yeah.
And she's sending Christmas cards with their kids. She's a completely,
she's a hateful person, is what she is. If she sent her thoughts and prayers through the mail, they would probably come back as undeliverable. Do you know what I'm saying? She's such a front-running Christian phony. And now they're cloaking.
They all are.
Right. And they're cloaking themselves in this religiosity in order to advocate for white supremacy, white Christian nationalism.
More violence.
Yeah. They legitimately want a race war. They are no better than Charles Manson, who also, his entire cult was built on starting a race war. I wonder how many people remember that.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This crazy, aggressive pursuit of transgender children in our communities and in our schools and in their families, when we have real challenges in the state of Texas right now, like 7 out of 10 fourth graders cannot read at grade level. And it's not that our kids are any worse than the kids in other states. It's not that our teachers are not trying hard. In fact, they're working 2 or 3 jobs just to support their main job right now. It's because we have so underpaid those teachers and started to attack them from the highest positions of power. When I am governor, we are going to support public educators and public education and make sure that every child has the resources and support that they need to be able to get ahead.
He lost. Yeah, he lost to Greg Abbott, who is another person who won't defend children. Not just the rhetoric about, furry children and transgender children and which bathroom is she going to use or he's going to, and they're going to swim on the wrong team when they're prepubescent. I don't know. Like, who the hell cares what team a kid who's 11 or 10 plays on? Who cares? Okay, so this is the kind of thing that they do so that they can get reelected when their attorney general has been under indictment for securities fraud for 5-6 years. This is the crap they do, and people eat it up. They buy it. They vote for it. They double down on it. And this is in light of the fact that Greg Abbott's Department of Public Safety officers, 100 or more of them, stood in a hallway and refused to enter a classroom where little kids were on the phone with 911 saying, my teacher is laying on the floor. She's shot, but I think she might still be alive. And then hearing gunshots over that call in real time and still refused to go into the classroom. Still refused. And Greg Abbott lied, and then he lied some more. And then when he got caught lying some more, he blamed somebody else for making him lie, for making him believe a lie, for making him tell the lie repeatedly. And when Beto showed up and called out the lie early in this Uvalde saga, early, he was told, get the hell out of here. Who do you think you are, turning this into politics? You get the hell out of here. But he was right. He was right. Like most people who speak up and speak out about our children being used as fodder for freaks, fodder for bad people who want power, fodder for people who cloak themselves in Christianity or religiosity of some sort, of some brand, of some higher calling, when they are legitimately wackadoos, legitimately evil, legitimately power hungry, lustful of power, craving power, wanting power, needing power, more than caring for children, more than caring for our most vulnerable citizens and our most important citizens, our children. People vote for it. They do. They keep voting for it. As long as they could feel that they could shroud themselves or cloak themselves into this false, lukewarm religiosity of theirs. As long as they could say, I'm on a crusade and God said this about LGBT. Jesus said nothing. Nothing at all about LGBT. He said nothing at all about gay. He said nothing at all. She's putting families that have their children shot and killed and maimed and mangled and mutilated in her prayers. Just sit down and shut up now. We don't want to hear from you. Not anything. Not a syllable, Lauren. Not a comment, not a syllable, not a sentence, nothing. We don't want to hear from you. You are part of the problem. You're part of the aggression. You're part of the fear. You're part of the paranoia. You're part of the hatred. You're part of the violence. It's a good thing God is forgiving, or he would have smited her a long time ago. He would have blocked all her messages a long time ago. And then she tweeted, this lawless violence needs to end, and end quickly. Quickly. I bet you her answer to end violence is to shut down all gay nightclubs. I bet that's her solution to the difficult problem of paranoia, rage, and too many guns in the wrong hands. I bet you that's her problem. Kenneth in Colorado.
Hello.
Hello, my queen. I'm Kenneth in Aurora, Colorado. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Hey, listen, it's a pleasure to talk to you. A couple of things real briefly. I don't live in Lawrence District, first of all, but I believe that I think that after this incredible surprise with this election, I think it's a matter of time, and that she will eventually lose, because even the people in her district, it's clear, have their limits. So
it was so close that you would think it would smarten her right the F up. You would think she would start flying straight and flying right, and start, making sure she wasn't spreading hateful, horrible, ugly ness into this world, but no,
absolutely,
it's not going to stop her. I mean, she does need to be defeated, and I love that this Frisch guy from Aspen, actually threw his hat in the ring and came within 550 votes of her. I mean, that's important to remember, okay? But right now, she's got 2 years to create absolute utter chaos and havoc, and that's a long time for a crap stirrer.
Yes, I know, and I agree completely. It's terrible. I was also, even though I'm in Aurora, I'm also an Uber driver, and I happen to be driving right past that nightclub the other night after that happened.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was heartbroken.
It's heartbreaking. All of this violence, all of this hatred, all of this paranoia, all of this scapegoating. I mean, what do people think is going to come of it? What good do they think that they are actually invoking when they say or do these things? What is the end game for saying this crap? What do they think that's good will result in Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert or Paul Gosar or Andy Biggs or Getz or Jim Jordan, being the head of the Judiciary Committee? I mean, what good do they think is gonna evoke in America? What
I know.
Right.
I know.
It's only going to lead us down another rabbit hole of dankness, of darkness, of violence and hatred. So,
I know.
And they're such a small little group. They're just such a small little, it's not, listen, people feel bad because it happened in Colorado. It's not just Colorado. We got Florida man here, okay? It's not just Colorado. You had a Jewish kid in New York who was not okay mentally, being talked into by his group home buddy, going and shooting up a synagogue. I mean, that's where we're at here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think... I mean, here in Colorado, we have several very conservative congressmen, but of course, nobody's heard of any of them because they fly under the radar and they're pretty quiet, and that's what the voters here kind of like. And I mean, it's clearly showing that people are losing their patience with Lauren, even in her district.
I hope so, man. I really do.
Me too.
But, they had a chance, and to tell you the truth, 3rd District of Colorado, you blew it. You blew it. You had a chance for a decent guy, a guy who actually told you that he was running as a Democrat, but he was very conservative, and he would respect conservative values. He would respect conservatism. He would not vote with the Democrats. He was going to be an independent guy. He was smart. He was legitimately committed to, just getting rid of crazy. That's all he wanted to do with his candidacy. He wasn't looking for power. He's a guy who is, from Aspen. He's well situated in this world. He didn't need this headache, but he just felt that the kind of scapegoating, the kind of violence, the kind of aggressive behavior that he was witnessing from this fake Christian, from this, went to the other side, evil person, was too much. It was too much to bear. And to sit there and do nothing was too much for him. So he threw his hat into the ring, okay? And came within 550 votes of her. That's a lovely story. It's a beautiful story. Props to you, Mr. Frisch. True, though, she's going to be in the House of Representatives with a bunch of very, very, very scary people. A good chunk of them are election deniers. A lot of election deniers, I think 155 of them, did get reelected. And so while we were sitting here congratulating ourselves for preventing a red wave, there is a red wedding. That's happening in the House of Representatives. It's going to be brutal and judgy and ugly. And they are going to have complete control over all the committees. You're talking about The Judiciary Committee. You're talking about the Committee of Oversight. Oversight. They're going to investigate and investigate and investigate and do nothing but investigations against decent people, against the Bidens. Joe Biden is a decent person. You might not think he's the best president. You might not like the way he delivers a speech. He is a decent man who believes in your dignity, who believes America is a country worth saving, worth preserving.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created
equal. To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Two sprawling criminal investigations into former President Trump are in the hands of an independent special counsel. Career prosecutor Jack Smith once ran the Justice Department unit that prosecutes political corruption. Now he's tasked with recommending whether Mr. Trump should be charged with federal crimes. Attorney General Merrick Garland citing the extraordinary circumstances involved in investigating a former and possibly future president.
Such an appointment underscores the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters.
Mr. Trump responding from Mar-a-Lago, claiming without evidence that Smith is part of the super radical left.
This horrendous abuse of power is the latest in a long series of witch hunts.
Garland is hoping to shield the Justice Department from claims the investigations are politically motivated, especially after Mr. Trump this week announced he's running for president again on the heels of unexpected Republican losses in the midterms. But some Democrats fear a special counsel could drag the process out.
I am confident that this appointment will not slow the completion of these investigations.
With an essentially unlimited budget, the special counsel will oversee the probes into Mr. Trump's role in the January 6th attack on the Capitol and into classified documents he kept at Mar-a-Lago. But the Attorney General must still sign off before Mr. Trump could be indicted.
So it's always going to be a witch hunt. It's always going to be the Democrats are doing this because Merrick Garland has to sign off on any indictment that Jack Smith, whose name is really John Smith. Did you know that? John Smith. You know how vanilla that is? Do you know how plain a name that is? So his name is John Smith, and so he goes by Jack. I don't know. That's like Elizabeth. Sometimes it's Beth. Sometimes it's Liz. Sometimes it's Lilibet. Sometimes it's Meg. I don't know why. But yeah, so Jack Smith is now going to be handed this. Oh, everybody is saying it's such a fully formed case. It's such a fully, developed case that there's hardly anything for him to do except go ahead and indict. So why have a special counsel then? So why even bother with it? There is no one in the Republican Party that's going to say that this is anything other than a Democratic witch hunt. That's it. I mean, Trump was saying it all weekend to anybody that would listen to him. Thank God the amount of people that are willing to listen to him is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking like, a tumor, like a tumor being radiated. But there's lots and lots of people who were, just like me, who said, I don't understand it. I don't get this move. This move makes no sense to me. And there were an equal number of opposite reactions, saying everything from, oh, this is a chance to correct Robert Mueller's mistakes. I'm sorry, but I don't think that the law exists to correct former special counsel's mistakes. I don't think that's why we have, the conspiracy charges or an incitement to an insurrection or a felony, of subversion or espionage, which is what the documents case would be. That would be a case of espionage. But people are saying, some people on one side are saying, well, this will actually speed it up. This will act because, they don't go and they don't find Jack Smith. They don't hire Jack Smith unless, they're pretty sure that, they need a prosecutor. And, that's what Jack Smith is. He's a prosecutor. He doesn't mess around. He doesn't play around. He's going to just, review the case real quick. And then he's going to say which charges apply. Go to Merrick Garland, get permission to indict Donald Trump. I don't know, and I'm supposed to be okay, with believing this. But I will play you some of the clips of some of his admirers, his fans. Some people don't know him, but one person does. I found a clip of her. Her name's Karen Agnifila. It doesn't matter. She's a colleague of Jack Smith's. And she is vouching for him up one wall, across the ceiling, and down the other.
I've known him for almost 30 years. He is somebody who is, like I said, he's a prosecutor's prosecutor. He is the guy who knows how to not just investigate a case, but to make a case. If anyone was worried whether Merrick Garland was prosecuting Donald Trump and investigating and prosecuting Donald Trump by asking Jack Smith to take over and hand the reins over to him, I no longer have any doubt that Donald Trump will be prosecuted if there is a case to be made. Also, Jack Smith would not have taken this position. I don't have inside information, but just knowing him, he would not have taken this if this was not a serious investigation that could lead to prosecution. To me, this is the opposite of delay. This is now we can go and we can make this case, because it's not like the people who've been working on this case are going to stop working on this case. They'll be assigned to him, I'm sure. It's just that it won't be Merrick Garland as the ultimate prosecutor. It'll be Jack Smith, who's the special prosecutor in charge of directing the investigation, of telling people what to do next, where to go, making the decisions, for example, of who to immunize and who not to immunize, and who to put in the grand jury, who to give a deal to, and make tough decisions. And frankly, if it turns out that there is no case to be made, Jack Smith can make that kind of tough decision too. He will do the right thing, because that is who he is. And this, if anything, will make this go faster, not slower, because he is a rock star case maker. I suspect that we're going to be seeing a lot of activity, a flurry of activity in the coming weeks about both the Mar-a-Lago classified documents investigation and the January 6th insurrection. And we're going to know a lot more about where they're headed based on activities that we will see publicly. Frankly, I think there's a case to be made, and that it's going to be made, and it's going to be made very quickly, because but it's a huge, huge signal in a very positive direction that Jack Smith was asked to do this and that he agreed to do it. So any doubts I had about Merrick Garland and this investigation at this point now, I just can't wait to sit back and watch and see what happens.
Okay, so there's somebody who worked with him for 30 years, doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on Jack's going to do it. Jack's going to, look, and he's going to see. And if there's a case, he will prosecute it. If there's a case, he will make it. If there's a case, there will be indictments, everything from the documents case to, she didn't mention January 6th, but okay. Jack's your guy. Jack's the one. Jack's a
rock star case maker.
Rock star case maker. He's going to sit there and he's going to say, okay, immunize this person to get their testimony against Trump, and don't immunize that person. We're not done shit. I don't know. She's very, very persuasive. She's very sure that if there is a case to be made, that Jack is the guy to make it. Jack is the guy. He's no Robert Mueller, basically, translation. And I remember what everybody was saying about Robert Mueller. Everyone was saying he was a rock star. Everyone was saying he's the guy. He's a button-down guy. He's a prosecutor's prosecutor. He's a law and order dude. Nobody can, massage him or manage him or talk him in or out of any. But yet, when Mueller actually, finished, the problem was Mueller couldn't explain to you what he found. That was the problem with Mueller. And Bill Barr superseded him. Bill Barr preempted him. Bill Barr, 3 weeks before Mueller was allowed to speak, Bill Barr was manipulating and massaging and, mangling and mutilating what was in that report, telling you there was nothing to see here. Move along, move along. There was no collusion. There was no contact. There was no coordination. There was no coordination between Roger Stone and WikiLeaks. That's not what it said in that report. There was no Russian interference. That's not what it said in that report. In fact, 13 Russians, although we don't have extradition, which is why there's been no trials, but they were indicted by Mueller in the Mueller report. Then part 2 of the Mueller report, 10 instances of criminal obstruction of justice on the part of one Donald J. Trump. However, you can't indict a sitting president, so I'm done here. Bye-bye. It wasn't that Mueller didn't find anything. It's that Mueller wasn't even allowed to tell you anything.
Clear. All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
But there are some advantages here. For one thing, if Merrick Garland should leave the Department of Justice, perhaps at the end of this administration, the special counsel gets to stay, and so it can live on even past the end of this administration.
2 more years?
It also may very well be the case that it wasn't simply Donald Trump that triggered the appointment of the special counsel, but maybe it's also members of Congress. Remember, they're supposed to lie low before an election. Maybe they've got people like Jim Jordan or Mo Brooks in their crosshairs, and they were waiting to get past this moment before announcing that they were going to proceed. And also, if Merrick Garland gets called to testify on Capitol Hill, now he can say, look, this is all a matter with the special counsel. It's not something I'm working on. And so let's focus on other things like voting rights and rights to reproductive health care and political violence. I've got those things on my plate. That's what I want to talk about. So I think here it allows him to do the day-to-day business of the Department of Justice, which is incredibly important, and have someone else who's very experienced, very respected, focus laser-like on these 2 cases.
Okay, so that's former prosecutor Barbara McQuade, whose legal opinion I value. You should too. She's got experience. She's a prosecutor. She understands the case. She understands the structure of the Department of Justice. She understands why a special prosecutor might be a good thing. But when she actually said at the beginning of that clip that one of the good things, one of the advantages to having a special prosecutor is that if at the end of the Biden administration, which still has 2 years left on it, if at the end of the Biden administration, the Republicans should win and want to replace whatever, the special prosecutor stays, much like the Durham, okay? You remember Trump appointed a special prosecutor, John Durham, who found nothing, okay? Nothing at all prosecutable at all by anybody with regard to spying on the Trump campaign or any of those things, right? None of that actually happened. And the whole Russia hoax, Durham was supposed to, just expose the Russia hoax. He was supposed to expose the connection between Hillary Clinton's desire to have dirt on Donald Trump and the Russia hoax, which, there is no evidence that would show that happened. All they came up with was one lawyer who may have, changed an email, and he pled, and that's it. That's what he got. Nothing else on a FISA application, a 4th FISA application, a FISA renewal, a 4th FISA renewal, right? But that's why he picked a special prosecutor, Donald Trump did, because at the end of the Trump administration, the special prosecutor was allowed to continue on. John Durham was allowed to continue on. That's what she's saying that we should be happy about in this scenario, and I can't be happy about that. Donald Trump should have been indicted yesterday. Donald Trump should have been indicted the day before that. Steve Bannon should have been indicted. Roger Stone should be indicted. I mean, there's a myriad of people. And yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene should have been indicted. Jim Jordan should have been indicted. Every single one of those Republicans who voted not to certify the results of a free and fair election after it was clear that the election was free and fair, meaning it had gone to 61 actually, courts of law. Rudy Giuliani admitted, got a case, but I have no evidence to back it up. You know what I mean? Sidney Powell's being sued for $1 billion for defamation because she alleged that the Smartmatic voting machines, she alleged that the Dominion voting machines were somehow unreliable, or that their technology was owned by the socialist dictator Hugo Chavez or some such crap, who's been dead since 2013. I mean, it's ridiculous. And of course, they continue down this road because it's lucrative for them. They find clients for their swill, and they make money peddling this garbage. But you can see that they no more deserve to have a law license than my dog does. Really. They have absolutely no integrity, no qualifications to serve inside of any bar of justice. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I'm supposed to be uplifted by this. I'm supposed to, But I will tell you, John Dean said the same thing. Said the same thing as Barbara McQuade. In that, he said, this investigation might include those members of Congress that I just named, and that the Department of Justice needs some sort of separation between the indictment of several members of Congress, the former president of the United States, and the current president of the United States. Yeah, John Dean has come to that conclusion as well, which is interesting.
I don't think we have the full understanding of what he sees in his vision. For example, we're all aware that he's looking at Trump. Is he also looking at members of Congress who may have been integral in the January 6th episode? So that's one of the things I thought about when I read his order appointing Jack Smith. I think it could be a much broader investigation than people perceive. It's just not somebody who's been placed on the president to chase him or the former president, but rather to look at the entire situation. Interference with the certification is very broad.
I'm playing this so that we could all, those of us who believe that this is not the special prosecutor appointment, but that the indictment is long overdue, and that we've been waiting and waiting for 2 stinking years now for somebody to be indicted at the political level of House member, or somebody to be indicted at the political level of president of the United States, that somebody that spoke at this crazy, now it's time to write down names and kick some ass, or take down names and kick some ass. Mo Brooks, John Eastman is still walking around. Steve Bannon is still broadcasting. A Roger Stone is still out there, making messages and appearing on podcasts and shows. It is so disgusting, so wrong. And everyone in this country who's ever gotten, into trouble with a traffic stop knows how instant justice is done with you if you went through a red light. How instant, how fast it is that you have to answer for a moving violation. Even how fast you have to respond to a parking violation, or your license gets suspended. I mean, every one of us knows that there are consequences for poor judgment, let alone criminal behavior. But if you're big enough, if you're bad enough, if you have a following, if you're an influencer of any sort in this country, or if you got money, if you got billions, if you can take control of a social media platform, then we have to have a special prosecutor for you. He's not the president. He's a citizen now. What is Donald Trump's status in our society? He is a citizen. What's your status in our society? You're a citizen. Why is it not equal? See what I'm saying? This is what infuriates me. And it infuriates everyone who has to show up in court and answer for a parking ticket. Everyone who has to show up in court and answer for a moving violation. Every person in this country who has to answer for something that they've been cited for, whether they did it or not.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Oh, look, everybody, it's the shapeshifter, Bill Barr.
If a former president commits a crime, especially a serious crime, they should be indicted for it. if the Department of Justice can show that these were indeed very sensitive documents, which I think they probably were, and also show that the president consciously was involved in misleading the department, deceiving the government, and playing games after he had received the subpoena for the documents, those are serious charges.
That's a serious
That's serious.
That's a serious
well,
enough
I
crime.
said that I personally think that they probably have the basis for legitimately indicting the president. I don't know. I'm speculating.
You're speculating, yeah.
But given what's gone on, I think they probably have the evidence that would check the box. They have the case.
And if they have it, should they?
That's a decision for...
If you were AG, would you?
I'm not going to get into that.
Do you think they will?
I think it's becoming increasingly more likely.
Bill Barr, everybody. Bill Barr. Yeah. A shapeshifter. Depending on, where he sits is where he stands, right? Has absolutely nothing to do with what's right or what's wrong or a sense of law and order or justice. No. Where I sit determines where I stand. When I sat and wrote a letter, to the president telling him, I could get you out of all this Mueller crap. I can totally, twist this. I can totally massage this. I can totally, tweak it. I can make America think there's nothing in this report. No matter what's in this report, I'm your guy. I'm your guy. Been there, done that. Hire me. When Trump did that and hired him, that's exactly what he did. He minimized, he manipulated, he tried to disabuse of the notion that Donald Trump, conspired with or colluded with or had information from Russian hacked materials. I mean, you got to remember how crafty they were. What great, great con men they are, right? Because Hillary Clinton is the person who was the victim of Russian hacking, okay? Her emails were illegally gotten through hacking activity performed by the Russian intelligence services. Her emails were then given to WikiLeaks, and Roger Stone coordinated the document dump. Whenever they needed a deflection from the truth, whenever like a tape would come out where he said, when you're a star, you could do anything you want to women. You could grab them by the pee, right? Whenever. Then Roger Stone would get on the phone with Julian Assange, and Roger Stone would coordinate another document dump of Hillary Clinton's emails so that everyone would think there was something, untoward or something illegal or something heinous or something ugly or something secretive and something manipulative in those emails. And there was nothing. There was nothing. What we found out at the very end were there were about 3 documents that had a C on them, meaning confidential or classified. And that was it. That was her big crime, that she had documents that had a C on them on her private server. Oh. But Bill Barr did that, right? And I just want you to hear the rest of a little, not the whole interview, because the whole interview is really devastating. It is. Because Bill Barr is still Trumpian. He's still all about it. In fact, when Margaret Hoover over here asked Bill Barr whether or not he would vote for Donald Trump again, he said he would.
If Donald Trump were the nominee for the Republican Party again, would you support him?
Well, I'm just hoping it never comes to that, because I think it would be a tragedy if he's our nominee, if he's the Republican nominee.
Could you vote against him? Could you vote not for the Republican if Donald Trump were the Republican nominee?
Well, again, I think it gets down to what I said, which is I would have to make the judgment at that point.
At that point?
The impact
you haven't
on the
seen
country,
enough?
and I'll have to see what's going on in the world, who the Democratic nominee is. If it's a progressive Democratic nominee, I can't imagine voting for him.
But ideologically progressive versus somebody who orchestrated an attack on the Capitol, who betrayed his oath to the Constitution, as you said in your words, you still might vote for him.
Mm-hmm. Depending on all this. It's hard for me to project what the future holds. The question is always a comparative one. You have to make a choice between 2 people. I don't believe in throwing my vote away on a third party.
You don't rule out supporting President Trump again?
No, I don't.
That kind of judgment should be nowhere near Attorney General, should be nowhere near the Department of Justice. That kind of judgment where he would actually choose a criminal, a man he just said 5 seconds before he said this. Okay, that was in order. 5 seconds before he said he would vote for him again, he said that a president is not above the law if he commits a serious crime, and that Donald Trump probably has checked all the boxes for the prosecutor to make the charge and make it stick. But he would vote for him again because, progressives and everything, his feelings about progressives, the tolerance that we bring. There's no place in America for that kind of stuff. There's no place in America for not saying, for not lying, for not cheating, for not, accusing Jews, or not accusing LGBT, or not accusing transgender, or not accusing, furries for the screwing up of our culture. No. He can't abide by that. He'd rather have a criminal. That was the chief law enforcement officer of this country. So whatever he says, take it with a grain of salt. These are some serious power-hungry, lascivious, lusty, hungry men. It's all they want is power, 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 power. That's all I want. And, he's one of those Opus Dei guys, right? So he was the reason why Bill Barr, I thought, did all this, covering up for the criminal Donald Trump, for the fraud that is Donald Trump, for the disingenuous liar that is Donald Trump, for the promotion of violence in this country. And Bill Barr would walk with him through Lafayette Square Park while he was, literally gassing innocent protesters, right? Just so he could walk across and hold up a Bible at a church, right? And lie like crazy and watch people get hurt. I thought that the reason why Bill Barr did all that was because he wanted to cover for Trump so Trump could nominate 3 Opus Dei creatures to the Supreme Court. I still believe that was a big part of it, but it seems to me that he isn't done. It seems to me with that answer right there, he's not done. Joseph in Texas.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering, and I heard you mention it earlier, why hasn't he been indicted yet?
I don't know.
We can convict people in the media, for stupid things they say, which he's done over and over, but he's actually done illegal things. It's amazing to me.
Well, I don't know that we convicted anybody in the media for stupid things they said.
Well, kind of, Kanye and Dave Chappelle. And
Kanye's not indicted, and Dave Chappelle's not indicted. We're talking about...
I don't mean it. I don't mean it literally. But they're getting roasted in the media, but yet Trump can do it.
Everybody can get I used to get roasted in the media. You know what I mean? It's just that's not the same thing as actually facing the bar of justice and having your liberty taken away, which is a very serious thing that needs to happen to Donald Trump.
It's the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Congressman, let me ask you about your decisions should you become the Speaker of the House in January. What are you going to do in terms of these Democrats that you have on such important committees? You've talked in the past about removing Ilhan Omar. You've talked about removing Adam Schiff, about Eric Swalwell. Will you deliver?
Yes, I will. I'll keep that promise. And one thing I said from the very beginning, Eric Swalwell cannot get a security clearance in the public sector.
What?
Why would we ever give him a security clearance in the secrets to America? So I will not allow him to be on Intel. You have Adam Schiff, who had lied to the American public time and again. We will not allow him to be on the Intel committee either. And you look, Congresswoman Omar, her anti-Semitic comments that have gone forward. We're not going to allow her to be on foreign affairs. But we're also going to stand up to what's happening, not just in the halls in Congress, but what's happening into our higher education institutions. The anti-Semitism that's going on these campuses and others. We will investigate that as well and stop this to make sure that America does have the freedom that we said we would keep, and we will stand up to it as we move forward.
So your description of freedom is anybody who disagrees with you shouldn't be on the Intel Committee or the Foreign Relations Committee, even though you are responsible for, I don't know what to say, covering for Gosar, who is a white supremacist, or Louis Gohmert, or Stephen King for years, also a white supremacist, or Mo Brooks, an insurrectionist. I mean, this is going to be 2 years of a clown show of chaos, complete and utter chaos.
One of the things that Kevin McCarthy has said is that he's going to strip you of your position on the House Intelligence Committee.
Well, I suspect he will do whatever Marjorie Taylor Greene wants him to do. He's a very weak leader of his conference, meaning that he will adhere to the wishes of the lowest common denominator. And if that lowest common denominator wants to remove people from committees, that's what they'll do. It's going to be chaos with the Republican leadership. And sadly, the kind of the crazy caucus has grown among the Republicans. Many Republicans who won primaries in deeply red districts are coming to Congress, like the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Paul Gosars. And it's
you also have some that won in moderate districts. I mean, it's going to be hard if he goes too much in one direction. He's going to have to worry about the other direction.
It's unmanageable. I mean, the amount of white supremacy that they have, allowed and actually, encouraged, covered for, excused or elevated, the amount of white supremacy that comes from Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a white Christian nationalist, from Lauren Boebert, who is a white Christian nationalist, from Gosar, who's a white supremacist, from Louis Gohmert, who's a white supremacist, from Mo Brooks and the rest of white supremacists. How in the world is he going to navigate between the white supremacist caucus and the moderate Republican Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney crowd? I mean, I really, honest to God, don't know. I don't know. But Adam Kinzinger, was saying this is probably why, they allowed Donald Trump back on Twitter, so that they can actually, stir the pot, so that they can keep, favorable opinions out there about white supremacy, about really ugly things, about scapegoating other people, in order for old white men to feel, less flaccid. I don't know.
Donald Trump has been reinstated by Elon Musk on Twitter.
Oh, God.
Watching the January 6th committee hearings, Trump's tweets were a big part of the story to be told. What do you think of him being back on Twitter?
I think it's a terrible mistake, and you're absolutely right. As we showed in the January 6th hearings, the president used that platform to incite that attack on the Capitol. His comments about the vice president, his own vice president, put Mike Pence's life in danger. He showed no remorse about that. He continues to lie about his actions on that day. He talks about pardoning the people who attacked police officers and attacked the Capitol that day. And it contradicts what Elon Musk said, that he was going to establish a council to evaluate this, and further contradicts Musk and his claimed concern about bots on his own platform, to subject the decision to a poll on a platform that could be easily abused that way. It just underscores the erratic leadership of Twitter now under Musk, but also the security concerns with security people fleeing Twitter. And what that means for the protection of Americans' private data.
Oh, Jesus, God. So Adam Kinzinger was asked about it, too. He said the same
was
thing.
taken off Twitter in the first place for inciting the violent insurrection against the Capitol. You're a member of the committee investigating the insurrection. What do you make of Elon Musk reinstating Donald Trump?
Well, look, I mean, I get that people are on all sides of this debate. The fact that he did it with a poll of which, however many % of those could have been bots that aren't real people voting in that. Secondarily, I don't know if, that decision should be made by some poll. I mean, what happened, if remember specifically when this was all done, so not only was he lighting and accelerating the fire on January 6th, also before January 6th with his conspiracies, at the end of the day, he said, this is what you get when a victory is so unceremoniously basically taken away from the American people. So not only when it was done did he have any remorse, he said, well, of course you guys had an insurrection because that's what you get when you steal an election. I mean, I remember seeing that specific tweet and just being outraged at how after all this is done, can you still do that? And so now this idea that he's going to come on and be reformed, everybody knows he won't. And by the way, I'll say as a quick aside, the person probably the most upset today is Devin Nunes, because this is going to tank Truth Social if he does in fact leave.
Well, I don't think he's allowed to tweet. I don't think Donald Trump is allowed to tweet by virtue of his contract and the money that was invested to create Truth Social. Now, I did look at some of the contractual language, believe it or not, and it looks like Donald Trump can tweet. He can tweet, but it has to be first posted on Truth Social, anything he wants to say that isn't political. So, you see, this is how it's parsed. But anything that he wants to say on Truth has to be posted on Truth Social first. And then he has to wait 6 hours. I don't know. 6 hours, and then he can tweet. But he hasn't tweeted. And he said he's not going to, because Truth Social, he said, is very special. It's very special. It's very important. And that's because he's trying to merge it with a giant SPAC, right? Which could actually create billions of dollars for Donald Trump. And, allow for Truth Social to go public, raising even more. So I don't know that he'll tweet. I don't know why Elon Musk, I guess Elon Musk did it just because he's trying to get marketing, trying to get some positive or some talk about the Twitter takeover, something, other than the fact that he is an abuser of the humanity he claims to love. Telling his people, you have to sleep on the floor, you have to, go hardcore, and no, I'm not giving you a raise, but I need more hours from you, and I need you to sacrifice your entire personal life for me. And, if you don't write great code, I don't need you, I don't want you, I don't have to have you, you're fired. And check this box. Check this box in this email if you want to continue to work. And if you check no, bye-bye. I mean, that's who he is. But he said he bought Twitter because he loves humanity.
Last night, Elon Musk, Kara, put Donald Trump, the former president, back on Twitter. Yeah. He had been suspended after January 6th.
Permanently.
And he went and he founded his own social media company, Truth Social. And according to filings, he has a 6-hour exclusive. He can only post there, not on Twitter.
Yeah. Right.
So what does lifting the ban on his use of Twitter actually do?
Nothing. I mean, he's been posting, people have been posting his truths, I think that's what they're called, on Twitter already, and it gets out anyway. So he has, he's got these contractual obligations to this company that is not doing great. And I think he can't resist, and he'll probably go full Twitter at some point. But I don't think it makes any difference. Plus, he's the former president, so it doesn't quite hit quite as hard. So I think the juice is a little bit out of his power on that platform. We'll see.
Well, he's also, Scott, a presidential candidate, as we learned just a few days ago. He was kicked off of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube after January 6th. Do you think this opens the floodgates, or is this just a gimmick by Elon Musk for PR?
I think it's mostly the latter. I think if Elon's out of the news for more than 48 hours, he'll decide to kick him off again. He said that the people had spoken in Latin. I found that this poll, Elon Musk polls on Twitter are more for support than illumination. He ran a similar poll to see whether or not he should sell Tesla stock, and it ended up he'd already filed to sell those shares. So I think these polls are mostly a gimmick, and I would argue the people haven't spoken. The GRU has spoken. And Twitter
Russian
has become...
intelligence, you mean?
100%. Twitter has become a playground for bad actors and fake bots. This poll is meaningless. This decision is meaningless.
Oh, my God. The GRU. I honestly, they must be throwing so much money at billionaires already. All right, we will be here tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Laura Flanders of The Laura Flanders Show, where I interview the best...